Hey J guys, I'm AJ. Welcome to our behind the scenes video of making Phoenix Wright the musical. This project has been in production for almost 5 years, so it's been going for quite a while and it's changed pretty radically from the beginning to now. We're excited to take you guys through the stages of production today, step by step. So, let's get down to it. Take that! The first stage for video production is always starting with a script. Fortunately, ours has been in development since 2014, so you know it's good. This final script was about 50 pages, so that's a lot of material we had to get through. Phoenix Wright the musical was originally going to be just one video, but as the script got longer, we decided maybe we should cut it up into 3 separate episodes instead, which is what you've seen now. The script underwent a lot of changes throughout the process. For example, at one point, Lotta Hart was going to be part of the project, and we decided maybe the audience didn't like her enough. We did something similar with Mia Fey, where she didn't seem like she really fit our needs at the time. One of the final characters we actually cut was Maya's little cousin, Pearl Fey. We thought she'd be super cute and we had the perfect actress in mind, but scheduling kind of became a problem, and that made us realize she didn't serve much of a purpose in the script. So in the end, we decided maybe our script would be stronger if we cut that character entirely. Oddly enough, both the first and final changes to the script all centered on Miles Edgeworth's character. The first lines written were part of Edgeworth's solo number, and the night before filming Edgeworth's part, we actually made last-second emergency changes to the script because some of his dialogue seemed to drift a little in and out of character, i.e., he wasn't a big enough jerk. The one consistent thing between every version of the script, Larry Butts died pretty much every time. Guess we really don't like the Butts. Miss Bird and I collaborated on that script, so if you'd like to know more about what she thought we should have done, here she is.
Well, I feel like some of the game characters weren't captured in an appropriate light, especially Francisca. Like, Francisca, I feel you just kind of took a shortcut and was like, oh, well, she says foolish fools a lot. I'll just make her say that like 200 times.
Why do you hate the judge?
Why do I hate the judge? Because he doesn't feel like the judge. He's much more stupid and aloof and not very involved, and he just feels very angry, and I don't know, he just doesn't exude the judge at all.
He is a less forgiving judge than the ones in the games.
Definitely. I agree.
Hold it!
With a cast this big, there were a lot of costumes to have to do. Fortunately, Miss Bird was on the job. Obviously, Phoenix Wright costumes can be kind of a challenge to hunt down, given how colorful they are, or flouncy they are. Miss Bird put in a lot of hours, and yet some of these still had to be rebought. We have 2 Miles Edgeworth costumes. Why would we have 2 Miles Edgeworth costumes, you ask? Well, because our final Edgeworth actor was not our original Edgeworth actor, but they were different sizes. So when we recast, we need a second costume. By the way, I'm pretty sure our original Edgeworth actor was stolen the week of our shoot by YouTube themselves. But hey, that's just a theory. Another character who has 2 costumes is Phoenix Wright himself. But you'll notice that our original costume didn't have pants. And we thought Phoenix should probably show up to court with pants. Plus this one's more blue, so I think it's just all around a better choice. And in case you needed any proof that we cut Pearl from this musical, here is Pearl's costume. It's like a little short version of mine. So cute! And if you want to know which of these costumes was the biggest pain in the butt to make, well, that's a question for Miss Bird!
I didn't really have much trouble with Maya, actually. She was pretty easy. Her obi was the thing that gave me the most trouble, because when it arrived, it was the wrong color. She did have a lot of custom jewelry, and I forgot about it. I thought I had already made it, and then I realized that I didn't, so the night before I scrambled and made things, and I thought it was going to be dry by the time that they shot, but it wasn't, so some of it fell apart, and it was easily put back together, but it was still just like, oh, well, oops, I messed that up.
Next up is the pivotal process of creating beautiful music! Ah, yes! It's so funky! The software I use for writing all of Random Encounters music is called MIDI Maker. It's a really old, kind of buggy piece of crap, but I like to use it. It's also done in Piano Roll, which is very unusual for a lot of music composition tools. The way Piano Roll works is that we can draw with these tracks, we'll call them, and add sick beats in them. It's gonna be so beautiful. Oh, it's gonna be a masterpiece. Are you ready to hear our song? Once you've drawn enough of your music in, you play it back. Yeah, that song, that's the next Random Encounters musical. In writing the songs for this musical, we wanted to evoke the game soundtrack's feel, which led us to write songs more in a style of swing, pop, jazz, and rock.
Those are the Rice Krispie people, right?
Yeah, actually, I think they might be. We began the music back when we thought this was going to be one long, 8-minute, non-ending song. But then we realized that doing 7 2-minute songs would actually be a lot easier on us. For example, you don't have to write all this little filler for every single moment if the songs just begin and end in key moments. The song, by the way, that you're listening to right now, that's actually the first piece of music we ever wrote for Phoenix Wright. And it's strangely a combination of a couple pieces and also some music that didn't even make it into the musical by the end. There were originally only going to be 6 songs in the musical, but the week of filming we realized that the villain of the series, Franziska von Karma, didn't have a musical number yet. So we decided to rectify that and made a 7th song that you might recognize. It's going to be in next week's musical, and I think it's really cool. With most songs on the channel, we finish the music first and then move on to lyrics. Not the case with Phoenix Wright though, because the script and the songs worked so closely together that we had to do music and lyrics at the same time. With the exception of Franziska's song, where we finished the lyrics first.
So, you've just seen the MIDI version of the music, and obviously that's not going to cut it on YouTube. So what we do is I bring the MIDI into Pro Tools, which is right here, and I have the option of basically telling the MIDI to be any instrument I want it to be, from a really cool sounding piano. I love this piano, by the way. It's just got such a cool sound to it. Adding additional drum parts that are super cool. I like them. Anyway, point is, you know, I have complete control over the sound that we're going to get, and I can choose what instruments become what. We can change instruments. I think that at one point, this bass used to be something, instead of a bass guitar, it used to be something that AJ said sounded more like a space alien, which I was a little offended about because I really liked the sound. But, you know, he makes choices, I implement the choices, it happens. It still turned out great, so I was really happy with it. But when you have that MIDI track, you can do so much with it to change it into exactly what you want it to be, and AJ has a really good ear for what it's going to sound like in the end, and I think that that's a really important talent that a lot of people don't have, and because he does, he's able to make some really cool stuff happen. So yeah, this is Edgeworth's song, Right is Wrong, which you all loved, and you know, you can do as much processing as you want on a track, but in the end, oftentimes, you just have to do that. These are all volume changes that I programmed in to make Edgeworth's voice pop on top of the music. And to do that, I have this fancy guy, this big mixing board down here, and
there's an old saying.
This is Edgeworth right here. Ugh.
But this ain't no drama off Broadway or courtroom video game. Now,
so this, you know, all of these are attached to a different instrument or vocal on the actual project, and I can just, it's called writing the vocal. I can change their volume and all of that just with my finger, which helps to give a more natural feel to things. For instance, oftentimes people will get really quiet during the last word of the song. So, or not song, but phrase. Sometimes people will get really quiet at the last word of the phrase, and so I'll end up pushing that volume back up to compensate for, you know, losing their breath or something like that. So that becomes a really important part of making it sound really natural and powerful.
Objection!
Objection! Costuming takes longer than any other part of the production phase.
Objection! Some of these wigs took even longer.
Some of these wigs even took days of work, especially this guy. Phoenix's wig went through so many iterations. Miss Bird was out here non-stop on his wig. Turned out pretty good, didn't it? Most of these wigs have already been washed out, but this is where Miss Bird originally styled them all. In the Big Wig Workshop! Obviously, there were a lot of other wigs that we had to do, such as Wendy Oldback. Get off my roof, you whippersnappers! Or Francisca, Foolish Fools. Or my personal favorite. Yeah, this one's not much. But it looks so good on him, doesn't it? The only two wigs we still have styled are Maya Fey and Phoenix Wright. And we apparently have a few others that aren't for this musical. I don't know what they're doing out here.
One of the problems faced on set, though, was me wearing this judge beard. It didn't stay on very well. I originally tried spirit gum to hold it on, but it wasn't quite doing the trick as the beard was too heavy. So we resorted to our fearless double stick tape, which was apparently the MVP of the Phoenix Wright shoot, and it worked wonders. Granted, I had to change it every so often, but for the most part, it held on during every take. For any cosplayers who want any advice making any of these wigs, we'll go to Miss Bird.
Don't. My hands were cracked and bloody from the hard work and effort that I put into it. So you should be careful if you do attempt to be Phoenix Wright characters. But I would just get somebody who's much more seasoned to do it for you.
So, obviously when you're doing a giant green screen shoot, it's best to have a stationary green screen to work with, so we don't have to like set it up and tear it down and so on and so forth. So that's preset lighting for the green screen, which is kind of in disarray right now because we haven't used it in a bit, but you know, whatever. So what you've got is these lights over here, these two, are lighting the bulk of the actual screen itself, and then you've got lights back here and here that are taking care of lighting the subject, who's going to be, you know, in front of the green screen, and a backlight that's tied into the ceiling there. We had sound equipment over here. We had like a recording device and a playback machine with a computer here just plugged in, whatever, so that we could, you know, lip sync to the music that the actor recorded a couple hours before. The small rooms with low ceilings and really square shape have some sound issues. Like when I went into post-production, I found that the sound itself of like people's voices, even though we had this super fancy boom mic, were a little bit boxy and they didn't really sound natural or whatever. So that was a kind of a big difficulty that I ran into in post-production. Also, it is a small set. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, if you look at this, if I do this, my hands are off the green screen, I assume, right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that sucks because we had to, you'll notice in the video, you'll notice everyone's kind of a little bit in, like this. Their hands are in, so that they're not going out of the green screen, making me and Nate have to do a whole bunch of work in post-production. And this magically appeared just now, which is pretty cool. This is one of the only like set pieces that we have for this project. It is some kind of bench thing that Miss Bird picked out and found, and she added stain to it to make it look a little darker. And it's actually on top of speakers because it was too low, but it works. I mean, it's a desk that you can pound. One more thing, we just changed the set around a little bit to kind of demonstrate what we're talking about. We, for a lot of the characters, had these little signs here, J, W, and P, all the way over here. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, these were the judge, the witness, and the prosecution. What would happen is when you're on green screen, you don't have any reference to where people are, where things are, because it's literally just an empty screen. It's hard to act. You can't act as well. So what helps sometimes is to have what's called an eye line. So if I were Phoenix Wright right now, I could look up there and know that I'm always looking at judge. I could look over there and know that I'm looking at witness. I could look down there and my eye line would be perfect for looking at the prosecution. So we would set that up before the actors actually started, you know, performing their parts. And if they ever had to switch sides, we would have them switch sides, and then we would put the little signs on the other side to make sure that the eye lines always made sense in the geography of the space that we were going to end up using. The other thing, oh, there it is the camera. So, this camera is the GH4, and Nate wants to battle, let us borrow it for the shoot because it shoots double the resolution that you're looking at right now. It shoots 4K, which is double the well, technically 4 times, but whatever. It's higher resolution than 1080, and the reason we wanted super high resolution is that you could zoom the shot in post, so I could shoot from here, from like my chest or my waist all the way up to my head, and I could use that as a medium shot. I could use it as a medium close. I could use it as a close up. I could use an extreme close up without losing too much resolution.
Objection! Once we finished filming with the camera on set, we actually take all the footage and put it over here onto the computer. For us, we're editing in Adobe Premiere, and that's a non-linear editing system where you have a timeline. And you put clips from the camera, for example, Phoenix Wright up here, and you drop him down here into the timeline where you want the video to play. As you take clips and put them in order on the timeline, you can get a new story to play.
Jail.
The trial will now come to order for the last time. Is the prosecution ready?
Let's get...
For most of our musicals, we don't have to record any sound on set because we're lip syncing to a song we've already recorded. For story-based projects like Phoenix Wright, though, we actually need to sync our audio with a clapper, like that, or your hands like a poor man, if you don't want to afford the clapper board. This is what you can see us doing in Phoenix Wright. Now we know that this audio is in sync, so when you pull a clip,
The trial of Maya Fey will now come to order.
it's all in sync, and we can drag that down here into the timeline, and it will play in time with the audio we recorded. So as an example, we have 2 different clips here. One where we have to record story parts, so we sync it.
Camera's rolling. Okay, the judge is up there.
And then I would say my lines. The other type of recording we do on set is when we already have music playing and we just lip sync.
Objection! There's no motive here. Objection to that. I did too. I'll object to each far.
Whoops. In Phoenix Wright the Musical, we filmed all the shots from the exact same angle and then changed how they look on the computer later on. Take a look at this clip. All these shots are from the exact same spot.
Probably to frame Maya Fey for murder. And the person who presented that Magatama in court as evidence is none other than Wendy Oldbag. What? As head of security, Miss Oldbag.
All the same angle. All of them. But some of them we zoom in to make look a little different later. Once we finish the edit, it's time to go through and add some music to any scenes that might still need a little something. Like the map scene. Here it is without music.
Until we reach 11 o'clock.
Where's she going?
Let's watch.
Seems a little silly, doesn't it? And once all that editing is complete, it's time to take all this footage, rip all the green out of it, and put in new backgrounds with Peter and Nate.
So, when AJ is done with his edit, he gives me a giant timeline full of hundreds and hundreds of shots, and I have to bring them into After Effects and remove all of this green in the background that you see here, and make it so that I can put Edgeworth or whoever else on the background that we need. Basically, I wrote a script to do a lot of this for me, so I would just select all of the shots up here, and activate my fancy script here, and hit prep, and it would process a lot of the shots and get really close to successfully removing everything. So then either me or Nate and I kind of took half and half on episode 2, would just go into the source and adjust these masks to make it so that, moving his body, so that nothing is showing up or whatever in the background, so that we can put him onto whatever background we wanted. So there was one major problem we ran into, and that's that when you remove the green screen, sometimes you remove objects that are also green, like the fake Magatama. Anyway, so I had to come up with a solution for that, and that made more complicated workflow. Sometimes you just have to do that. Like, sometimes you can't make everything not green. It happens. When, like, she would hold it out in front of the green screen, I had to trace it frame by frame, and that was really frustrating and long. What we did do is, whenever we had an item that was green like this, we kept it on their body, because that helps to make it really easy to key, or in this case, not key. Devin Chenoweth, who was Gumshoe, he actually did all the backgrounds for it. He also did some of the backgrounds for Phantom of the Opera and the Princess Peach song. He did some of the character animation for it. So what we have here is a giant email chain starting right up here, going all the way down here with like a whole bunch of different revisions. He worked really hard on this to come up with stuff. Like, for instance, in the beginning, this was the courtroom. He didn't. We did not communicate well enough to him that there were actually, physical objects that we had on set to represent these pieces here. So he had to later remove those, change the color of the backgrounds to match what we actually had on set, and so on and so forth. And that was just a process. He would send a mock-up, and AJ would be like, here's where we need to tweak it, here's where we need to change. Finally, I would get the finalized background and, put it into the shot. The backgrounds were drawn at an incredibly high resolution, so that just like over there with the green screen, we could zoom the background in instead of having to make an all-new background. Finally, you have the map. Edgeworth, obviously, in the second episode, brings up a cool-looking 3D map, and that was just AJ built 3 different map layers. There's the top floor, the middle floor, and the bottom floor. I turned those into like 3D layers that you're able to fly around in, and that enabled us to essentially have this red dot moving, and it was a pretty cool system because it felt kind of like a cheesy movie, so that was fun. So here's actually what the map does in all of the shots. So you've got it opening up like that, and then this red dot down here, it's blinking and it's moving, and here she goes, here oh, she jumped up to the top stairs, and now she's up here, but you can't see it. There we go. And now she's waiting and she runs away. It worked really well. I was pretty happy with it.
While Peter's finishing up the visual effects, I'm hard at work doing subtitles with a copy of the script close by. For this process, we use Adobe After Effects, though we did create a custom Phoenix Wright text box in Adobe Photoshop first. It's as simple as creating a unique clip for every single piece of dialogue that we believe needs to be subtitled. Each one of these is a line of dialogue specific to each character. They've all been color-coded accordingly for editing later, so Phoenix is blue, Old Bag's yellow, Miles is red, the Judge is brown, Maya's purple, so on and so on. But it makes the process a whole lot easier to edit specific lines later if we know which characters are what color and where to find them. Phoenix Wright was unusual and different from other musicals in that instead of posting subtitles to appear one at a time, we actually had to animate them to appear in time with dialogue. Right here, we have keyframes showing where the line of text will start and where it will end. You can play it, and you can move it. So say I wanted the line to be shorter, I can move the keyframe all the way here, and the dialogue would appear super fast. It's a tedious but simple process, but if you find any mistakes, it's probably my fault. Though I guarantee we did watch the video more times than you probably have. Anyway, the next process is recording, which I have some to go do right now.
Objection! Obviously, when we're recording music, you have to record music. An important part of any recording setup is having a microphone that actually has a pop filter. That's what this is. This stops like air from coming in. I barely felt that on my hand, which is really cool, but it doesn't stop like the sound. So that's really important to have. If you don't have one and you're recording something, please get one, especially for music. No, just everywhere. Generally, I've found that this particular position in the house is a good sounding place. Like if I put this microphone right here and we sang, it would sound like crap, which is weird. But this position sounds pretty open and pretty free. All of these reflections from like the walls in the background don't make much of a problem because we're doing music. So like a nice reverb is fine. But I wouldn't suggest necessarily a huge space for like voiceover or something because you want a really close and intimate sound.
I'm recording a piece of music as the judge. He has basically one line, but it's in the, I think it's the final song of the musical, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the final song. So you'll get to see that happen in full force in the 3rd episode. One more twist, one last kink. This is it. I need a drink. I don't want to hear the music at all, I don't think.
Okay.
Because I couldn't
Gotcha.
hear if my voice was sounding like the judge or not.
Gotcha.
So I couldn't
The
tell.
judge or not.
The judge or
The
not.
judge or not.
One more twist. One less kink. One less...
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
One more.
One.
One more twist. One less kink. This is it. I need a drink.
Sounded pretty good. How was the timing?
Nailed it.
So that's the full, complete process to making a musical like Phoenix Wright. There are a lot of benefits and detriments to making a project this enormous, though.
Longer projects you still have to rush on when you work with random encounters, but you don't have to rush as much, and it's nice. So that's a nice benefit. A detriment, though, is that you're still working on the same project, and you kind of want to just stop working on the same project and do something else because you kind of get bored just kind of working on the same thing all the time.
It's good to be working on the same project so you have the same material and know exactly what you need to be doing, but the detriment is that you're also still working on the same project and you're not doing anything new.
You have a lot of assets that you build up, like you have a lot of costumes and set pieces or, you know, scripts or whatever, and all of these assets you use multiple times. You get to reuse them over and over, which is really helpful because you don't have to go back and create more costumes or whatever. But at the same time, you have the difficulty of producing all of those things. You have the difficulty of shooting for 7 days straight and then editing for 1.5 months straight. And so it can get really tiring. Yeah, it just gets really tiring.
But even after all of this work, don't think we haven't all imagined what it would be like to make a Phoenix Wright sequel.
We'll do a part 2 once AJ plays Apollo Justice. How about that?
I think we should really go off the wall for a sequel if we do one, like maybe a Gant prequel or like Dr. Hottie Origins.
I really just don't want to do a whole bunch of green screen again.
That's the end of all our behind the scenes. I hope you guys will stick around now and enjoy a quick teaser of the finale of our series, Phoenix Wright, the musical.
Oh, all the days to be late, Nick. Couldn't you pick a day when I'm not going to jail?
I missed swimming for this. The trial will now come to order for the last time. Is the prosecution ready?
Let's get to it.
Is the defense ready?
Not exactly.
You. I call Maya Fey to the stand.
So I guess that's it, right?
Oh, yeah, they gotta
We
subscribe.
finished the video? Oh, we haven't finished until they subscribe.
Yeah, they gotta click the videos on
Watch
the
the
side
other
too.
videos. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah, don't leave us hanging, okay?
No.
We worked really hard on this, didn't we, Nate?
We did, yeah.
You're all
Yeah.
sweaty looking.
I
You
did.
worked really hard.
I'm sweating terribly.
Beard salute!